Tiny footsteps. Tiny, muffled steps hurried down the hall to our bedroom. They stopped just outside our door as a small hand slowly pushed open the old moaning door. There were more footsteps, then a small hop up onto the foot of the bed, and a clumsy crawl up to right between my wife and I. My daughter, 4, often awakened in the middle of the night to come seeking the safety only a parent's bed can provide. Having recently moved in, my wife and I had been lenient on allowing her to come and sleep with us. New houses come with new sounds to get used to, new shadows to puzzle out in the dark. And though this house was new to us, it was actually quite old. There was no shortage of creaks and groans pervading the century-old floorboards and walls. We understood the transition would take some time, and she may feel uncomfortable for a while, but it wasn't a habit we wanted to encourage forever. Eventually we would resume the ritual of returning her to her bed at whatever ungodly hour she had come in. Not tonight, though. Exhausted from a long day of wrangling in our new yard that the old owner had let go feral, I laid facing the wall, with my back to my daughter, implementing my recent strategy of ignoring her until she was dead asleep. Given the slightest bit of attention, even in the middle of the night, my daughter would have trouble finding sleep again. But fortunately she settled in under the comforter and was quiet. I closed my eyes, hoping I could also go back to sleep quickly. About half a minute passed, then, asterisk tap 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 asterisk. Cold, tiny fingers poked my shoulder. I groaned, eyes still closed. Couldn't give her too much. She brought her arm back down quickly, but didn't say anything. My wife stood on the other side of the bed. I tried to fall asleep again. I was just dozing off when I heard a thin and raspy voice mutter, "Daddy." Huh? I grunted, coming to in a start, but still half asleep. Her voice sounded a bit off, the way some sounds do when you are teetering on the edge of a dream, not sure which side of sleep it came from. I lay still, continuing my strategy. She said nothing else, and I was finally able to fall back to sleep. It was still dark outside when she kicked me with her little foot right in the back. I jolted awake and nudged her legs away, straightening her out. I reached over and tapped my phone on the bedside table to check the time. Through blurry eyes I could see it was still a couple hours until morning. Deciding that I needed to get some good rest before another long day of yard work, I stood, then reached down and scooped up my daughter to take her back to her room. I managed to find my way down the hall to her room in the dark, trying to keep my eyes mostly closed so as not to wake up too much. Nudging open her moaning door with my shoulder, I saw moonlight shining through the bedroom window, illuminating my daughter's bed. Laying there, snuggled up under her covers with her doll, was my little girl, fast asleep. I froze, confused with what I was seeing. I blinked hard to clear away the haze of sleep. I slowly dipped my head to see who I was holding, and as the blurriness cleared, I saw another small girl, about my daughter's age, staring up at me with yellow eyes from sunken sockets. Cool moonlight illuminated horrible grey skin and thin tendrils of black hair. She looked frozen at first, then her lips parted slowly in a grin, revealing dirty brownish teeth. She wore a filthy nightgown with ruffles around the collar, and I became vividly aware of the scrawny, bony body beneath it. The dead girl giggled with her raspy voice, and I dropped her, letting out a shriek of terror. She hit the floorboards with a thud, then hopped to her feet and scurried out the door into the darkness, giggling as she went. I listened to her tiny footsteps fade away down the hall. "Daddy?" I inhaled sharply as I turned to look over at my daughter's bed, realizing I hadn't been breathing. She was propped up on one arm, wiping the sleep out of her eyes with the other hand. "Hey," I said, barely able to squeak it out. I stepped over and scooped her up, then walked over to her doorway. I stood there for a moment listening, building the courage to step out into the hall. My room was only about 10 steps away, but it felt like a mile. Finally, fairly certain the hall was empty, I took the first step. The second one came easier, and soon I was in an all-out sprint, sure the dead girl was right behind me. I made it to our bed, and placed my daughter down in the middle next to my wife, where she fell fast asleep. I lay still next to her until the sun came up, wide awake, eyes fixed on the dark hallway, listening for footsteps.